Good to be here. Thank you. A few observations first. I think the disconnectedness, social isolation, loneliness that we're experiencing is a worldwide phenomenon. Atomization, for instance, is a major challenge currently for the Chinese Communist Party, just as it is the epidemic of poor mental health is a challenge in the West. Deracination, semi-nomadic lives, dormitory towns, and empty churches are the products of modernity, or at least these are the destinations where the modern world has led us. Material wealth combined with spiritual weakness. I don't think human beings have changed so much as the conditions that we live in have changed. What we've lost is a life in common, or of being together. A desire to be together still exists, I think, but it's harder to fulfill. So a few days ago, I was in the Oxfam bookshop at Keswick, and I spotted a book which on its spine said Yearbook for Scotland, 1961. I picked it up. I wonder what it was. It was the Tory party's Yearbook for Scotland. It was 380 pages of committees, of honorary chairmen and branch treasurers and so on, all over Scotland. It was massive. It's an astonishing book, and I was flicking through it. The Conservative Party at that time had 2.5 million members. Astonishing levels of participation. I looked into the next house to me, my house in Orkney, and found the name of the treasurer who was actually in charge. It was astonishing. That's long gone. It's a fraction of that now. Ben Cobley recently wrote in The Critic, the habits of participation, chairing meetings, minute-taking, now seem arcane and irrelevant to many. And so many of these little groups simply dissolve and melt away, leaving a vacuum in their place. That vacuum, I think, is being filled with technology, and in particular, people gazing endlessly at screens of various kinds. Smartphones intervene between people, literally, quite often, people leading parallel lives at the same dinner table. That's what we're faced with. And this addiction leads to cognitive deterioration, anxiety, depression, loss of sleep, loss of concentration. A quarter of 5 to 7-year-olds now have smartphones. They're designed to be addictive. Personally, I think smartphones should be banned for the under 16s. Other solutions. First, place. Quote, for most people, the meaning of their lives is a local affair. That's John Gray. I think he's right, as he is on virtually everything. Solutions, I think, will always be local at the parish level. There's a new film out called The Outrun. It was based on a book by an Orcadian author called Amy Liptrot. And she wrote about her experiences in London as a young person dealing with alcoholism. And she left and went back to Orkney, where she was from, to deal with it, to get over it. And the most interesting insight in that whole book was the fact that in Hackney, in her late 20s, her friendship group was actually very narrow. It was basically people of her age, of a similar outlook, with similar habits. Curiously, when she went to Papa Westray, there was only 80 people there. So you had to interact to work, so the island works. And so counterintuitively, social life in Hackney was actually very insular. Social life in Orkney was very varied. Key insight. So I think the solution will always depend, to some extent, on somewhere. It depends on a place. Secondly, communion. As a society, I think we're doing as well as any society could, which is in a process of losing its principal belief system. During the 2019 election campaign, I was at Leeds University hustings, and a student asked me, what is the SDP going to do about my mental health? And I talked about the NHS. What I should have done is ask the student, had they considered going to church? Maybe that would have gone down worse. But what I'm getting at is that the church used to provide this spiritual foundation. And I actually attend church. I think for me, it's about belonging, not belief. I don't believe, but I do attend. Lord Home once asked Harold Macmillan if he could put his finger on the point in time when the slide in values in Britain began to set in. His answer came without hesitation, the day that people stopped going to church on Sunday morning. I think that's probably right. So finally, I'd like to end on an optimistic note. I think beneath the surface there are communities wanting to be convened. And during the lockdowns and the pandemic, in my own home village in Corbridge in Northumberland, we organised support groups basically for people that needed prescriptions or food or whatever. And we were absolutely inundated. We divided the village into sections, and the level of volunteering, I'd never seen it before. It was absolutely astonishing. So in a crisis, people really rallied round. We couldn't, as I say, we couldn't deal with the level of volunteering. So in a crisis, there was a massive urge to participate. And I think that showed a latent desire to be in a community and be part of it. I think it's there, and our job is actually to find it and convene it.
Thank you.